Here we go. How's that? Can you hear me now? If you can hear me, let me know in the chat. I'll start that over. What's going on, everyone? My name is Dak. Welcome back to another episode of Dak Chats. Hey, there we go. Thank you, Jessica. Thanks so much. Welcome back to another episode of Dak Chats. What I was saying before, when you couldn't hear me, is tonight's episode really made me feel kind of like we were watching old school BB. I'm not sure why exactly, if it maybe it's just a different mood I'm in, I don't know, but it really felt like I was watching one of the earlier seasons. And it was just the way the strategy was going on, the gameplay, the editing of the episode just felt really old school to me. And again, I can't put my finger on it, but that's kind of the sensation I got. So that's really nice. You know, this whole season kind of has had that sense to me since we had the Amira blindside. It's just been the gameplay has been more, and we've been talking about this on some of our recap episodes. We're getting actual gameplay. We're getting people on the outside that are coming together, that are getting to know the game, that are getting ready to play the game, and are playing the game. The people on the outside are coming together and like we said before, in ways that we don't see very often anymore. We used to see that all the time. There's been a lot of references to BB6 with how a lot of the outsiders in that group came together and formed something. And, I think that was the friendship group or maybe that was opposite, but, we're seeing that kind of replay again for the first time in quite a long time. And it's really exciting, and it's really fun to see players actually playing the game. So I'm having a blast, and it's been really enjoyable for me to watch this season. Again, we were also afraid. It felt like, we were about to get into a really hard to watch season. At the end of week one, I was like, this being the first season I'm actually covering, this is going to be hard. This is going to be tough. But I'm really glad that it's picking up. I know I'm not the only one. So it's a lot of fun. So I'm glad to be here. So let's jump into tonight's episode. We start out with, after the nominations, Monty talks about, he says that he nominated Alyssa and Indy because they're the only two that is a group that both members in the Bestie Festy group are not part of his alliance. So it's kind of like the default, leftover person or leftover group. Again, this Bestie Festy group is really causing restrictions on what they can do. He said he still wants Nicole out because he feels that she is the bigger target. She's the bigger threat, which I agree 100%. I completely agree, and we'll get into it later with the reasoning why why they could go after Indy and Alyssa. But I still think that, and those are very solid reasons, and if they did choose to do that, again, we'll talk about that later, I would not be opposed to it. I'm not upset with it. I'm not angry at the move. I think it's a good move, but I do think threat level, Nicole is the biggest threat that they could be going up against, between her and Daniel. I think Daniel is second to that, to be honest. I completely understand why he's wanting to go for Nicole. And go ahead and put her and Taylor on the block and backdoor him. Indy says she doesn't trust anyone. Big whoop. She hasn't been playing any game, talking any game to anyone. So why would you trust anyone? Because you haven't been actually having those conversations. You haven't been building that trust. So many times, and again, it's a problem with, we have so many recruits that they're not really watching the game. They don't really know anything about the game. So they come in just thinking that they can get away with, having a decent social game and never talking any game. The only game she's ever talked is right after a competition or a ceremony, and she's so upset about how that went down. And then because of how it relates to the plans that other people have made and come to her about. And I get 100% why she would just be, being like, well, this is surprising. I don't know who to trust. Well, that's because you haven't built that trust with anyone. You can build bonds and friendships in the house without building any trust whatsoever. And that's exactly what she did. So she says she doesn't trust anyone. Alyssa says the same thing, but she's going to gun for the veto because she doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know, where things lie after Amira gets taken out. And again, they really stress us on the veto episodes on Wednesday that, I don't know what's going on and there's all this craziness. But the flip side of that is for them, when nominations happen, it's the day after eviction. So for them, it is still very fresh. This was just Friday night for them. So yeah, they're all on the heels of, I don't know what happened with the Amira stuff. We're still trying to piece it together and figure it out. It can be very still healing from the Band-Aid getting ripped off of that blind side. So yeah, they're both, they don't feel comfortable being on the block, and they're both going to gun for the veto. Taylor says that she's okay with seeing Alyssa and Indy up on the memory wall. She's been up way too much this season already, and she doesn't want to have to do it again. She does want Nicole out, but she doesn't want to continue going up. And we hear a little bit more of that later. We'll go over. But she's tired of having to go up. And she, at this point in the episode, she says that she doesn't really want to. Hi, Mona. She says she really doesn't want to worry about having to go up again. Nicole says she doesn't even feel safe, even though she's not on the block. She knows that feeding horses. Yeah, nice. She knows that there's something awry, and again, still fresh off the heels of the night before for them was being eviction, so they don't have any concept of what's going on. So Monty says we get Monty and Joseph talking about the whole situation, and Monty says Taylor feels okay, but they're gonna have to kind of massage that relationship, and I do get what he's saying. You got to kind of work it, right? He mentions how he says that she gets paranoid easily, which honestly is understandable because she went from having no idea why everyone or having no idea that everyone was upset with her, that everyone was turning on her and trashing her behind her back, and went from that to now all of a sudden everyone's chewing her out and she keeps going on the block and she can't figure out why, and she's wondering why all these people are walking out of the room as soon as she walks in. I mean, we've gone over it all. So obviously, yeah, I think that's a very fair read, is that she will get paranoid very easily because she only in the last less than a week at that point has actually had people that she can trust, or at least that are telling her they can trust her and actually bringing her into something. So yeah, she definitely is going to get paranoid very easily, or I can at least see why he would think that. And so they're trying to make sure that she has the attention she needs so they can build that trust up together between her and the Alliance. He mentions that Nicole, yes, they are targeting Nicole, and it might have been Joseph. I think it was Joseph that was saying that yes, Nicole is our target, but betraying that trust with Taylor is not worth it, because they say that they care about her as their Alliance member. They want her to feel safe with them, but also they care about her as a person and as a friend, and they don't want to put her through more turmoil. So they're trying to make sure she's comfortable with it, which honestly, and again, I talk about this as just put all the humans in a human zoo and watch how they interact, and however they interact, that's how they interact. That's part of the social experiment, right? But I do actually really like this, that they're like, listen, yes, we can, in this situation, we are able to make good game moves while also making good human moves and treating people with decency. And I think it's really nice kind of seeing how they're able to do both at the same time right now. So I'm really happy. I'm really happy that she's getting brought in the way she is. Taylor mentions how she's sick of feeling like she's behind. She feels like, she's been playing catch up in this game, since she got brought in because of everything she's gone through. She mentioned she's talking to Michael and Brittany, and she says that they really need to bring the reins in. He says that, Michael is talking about the sub-alliance thing, which is the same thing that the 4 other guys have, right? They have, I can't even remember the last time they referenced it, but the Pound in reference to Pooch's name, whatever. And they have the 4, and then they brought in the other 3 to surround them. Well, now we have, again, it's so nice because those are the 4 people that in most seasons, those 4 guys really, maybe Turner, but those 4 guys really don't get left on the outs very often. They're not usually one of the leftovers, so to speak. So, yes, it's nice seeing these leftover people, these outsiders come together, but a big portion of that is over half of those, at least half of those individuals are not normally in that same bubble. They usually are brought into the majority alliance. So it's kind of not super surprising that those 4 guys would build that inner layer, right? But Michael sees that, and he's like, he may not recognize that they're a group yet, but he's getting ahead, and he's like, look, when we get to 7, what are we going to do? Who's going for who? Because if we get all the way to 7, we just wait till 7, then it's going to be a free-for-all, right? And there's no way that if they're not coming to me, then they're going to someone else. So they're going and building that group within each other, most likely. And so we see that coming in, right? So Michael's like, look, I need to have my own onion alliance. I need to have, yes, this is our main 7. We got to get this 7 to the final 7. But then after that, we need to start having a plan for what we're going to do once we get there. And when you think about it, Michael's currently the Veto King. Technically, Taylor hasn't won anything yet, but she has shown that she's a good competitor. Brittany is, I wouldn't put it past her to be able to win something. Now, they do still have 4 other bigger competitive guys that could win, that definitely have a shot. So it's going to be a really even split. We might get to a point after this week where even, for example, now I know it's kind of skipping ahead, but if Nicole does go home, even with Daniel left, there's really not a lot that's going to go on there. So until the 7 get to the 7, as long as they stay together, then it is going to be kind of a boring ride to get there. But once we get there, it's going to be super exciting. If we get there, it's going to be super exciting watching them figure out how everything commingles and all that. And this battle of which side is going to win. Because Turner, while I do group him in, he's very much possible, a possible winner and a comp beast. I personally would put Michael and Taylor ahead of him. So I kind of feel like it's 2v3, and then both sides kind of have their X person with, the Pound having a little bit slighter advantage because obviously Turner has one. It was a little bit of a crapshoot comp, but that's something else. The comps are so crapshooty, and I love it because you can't predict who's going to win. You have an idea who might win based on certain things, but anyone can win these, and I'm loving it. Mona says, I am fine. In the chat, she says, I am fine with the social experiment, but they need to show all the bad behavior and let chips fall where they may. No protecting the bad actors. 100% agree. Like I've been saying since the beginning, and I get it. It's terrible. It's hard to watch. It's hard for me to watch. It really is. But I'm fine with the bad behavior because that's what you're asking for when you put 16 strangers in one house together, lock them in, and say, have at it, with very, very few rules to follow. There's very few guidelines, and there is no real guidelines as to how or what you are and are not allowed to do to get to the end. As long as you're not physically harming anyone, as long as you are not using production as a strategy and offering winnings and stuff, there's really very few rules as to what you can do strategy-wise to get to the end. I mean, just look at season 12, right? Matt Hoffman, he completely fabricated a story that his wife had cancer just to get to the end. And she knew that he was going to do it, and she was fine with it. Now, morally, right? Probably not, right? I mean, it's definitely a very difficult thing for him to confess in the jury house, and it was very difficult for some of those people to take it. But that's what happens when you throw that many people into a house from all different backgrounds of life that are all competing for, at this point, $750,000. So I'm perfectly fine with the bad behavior so long as there's no physical harm to anyone, because, again, that's what you're asking for. But I also agree 100%. If they're going to have that bad behavior, and production knows that's what they're asking for, that's what, if you're going to keep the show alive, you're going to put this on air, then put it on air for the reason you're putting it on air. You have this social experiment, this fly on the wall type of environment, and you just want to watch. Then just watch and show it accurately. I get you only have so much you can fit in an episode. I get that 100%. But when there's there's got to be some type of even split. And while it might take away a little bit from the gameplay, and that is, I hate that, you got to show the even split. And again, I've been saying for years, this is CBS, especially on Thursday nights, this needs to be a 2-hour episode. This needs to be a 2-hour show, especially on Thursday nights, so they have time to fit everything in. I get it. It's budgeting, it's stuff, but how long this show has been on the air? Look at other shows like The Bachelor. They've been going for years with 2-hour episodes, and they're super successful. They have, I'm pretty sure they have a significant larger following than any Big Brother and Survivor does. So you again, I agree 100%. It's gonna happen, and when it does, hopefully we have seasons where it doesn't happen, right? But if it does, it happens. But they have to show it accurately and portray it accurately, and that's just not normally. We were surprised the past week when everything started getting shown, right? When we saw the blow up and we saw everything that happened, we were surprised to see it, and that's a shame. We shouldn't be surprised to be shown an accurate representation of what's going on in the house, because being accurate is showing the positive and the negative and how that's intertwining and how that's affecting the game, because now they're having to fabricate stories in some instances of why certain things are going down, and it's upsetting. All right, so we see Daniel. He goes and talks to Monty, and Monty tells him that, yeah, he's fine with putting Taylor up, and getting her out. Obviously, that's not really true. At least that's what Monty would like us to know is that's not true, but he's just trying to appease them until they can get past this week. Daniel says that is his main target. Monty mentions how he wants Indy and Alyssa to feel comfortable, and Daniel's worried that Monty Daniel mentions in the DR and says, I'm worried that Monty's going to go ahead and backdoor Nicole anyway, so he doesn't trust him at all. Taylor talks to Michael and Kyle and kind of jumping ship. That was a brief conversation, not a lot to take out of it, but we see Taylor talking to Michael and Kyle, and she says that she really doesn't want to go up. And from what I gather from this conversation is that Taylor really doesn't want to look like she's volunteering, and I totally get that. That's not a good look for her. She is afraid that she's going to start being looked at as an easy person because, well, you've already volunteered several times. You're fine going on the block. And not only does it make her a target to be put on the block, even just as a pawn, but it's going to make her look weak. Why would you be so willing to go on the block every single week? You obviously don't care about your game, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that's how it has to be perceived, but it could be. And so I totally get why, aside from just not wanting to deal with the stress of going on the block, I can totally see why she wouldn't want to do it. So she mentions at that time, she's like, look, if we can convince Daniel to use the veto, I'm fine with that scenario because I don't have to look like I'm volunteering again. And we get the guy to take his own person out, which, a little bit of foreshadowing there. So we go from that conversation and we see Kyle and Alyssa talking. And again, this is another short one. I don't like talking about all the mushy-gushy stuff just because I can relay it to you guys and we can discuss it. And it does actually have some practicality in the game, as we saw. but they're talking, and Kyle says that, no one else in the house likes anyone else in the house, so no one's dealing with that same struggle. And Alyssa says, well, it's more boring for them, right? But Alyssa tells us, she says she loves Kyle, is what she said, but there are some patches that they need to fix. One of them being that he completely ignored telling her about the Amira vote, and that really put a little bit of distrust in their relationship for her. And Kyle mentions, he's like, I know that she has a situation mance or what, I can't remember what they're calling it, but he knows that there's some stuff going on at home. He knows it's going to jeopardize his game, but he also is very much attracted to her and very interested in her, and doesn't want to give up or risk losing that on one side. On the other side, he wants to stay true to his alliance. So yeah, that's a fun, a fun little deal. Again, a little bit of foreshadowing for what's going to come. Daniel talks about how, he knows Monty is going to tell him to use it. Him and Nicole are talking a little bit, and he's like, I know Monty's going to try and tell me to use it because he wants to backdoor or use it and backdoor Taylor, but he doesn't trust him. So he's like, I'm going to gun for this, but I'm not winning it, or I'm going to win it, but I'm not using it, right? I'm going to gun for it. I'm going to try and win it. And if and when I do get it, I'm not going to use it because I want Nam to stay the same. And, I don't want to risk Nicole going home. And he's like, I know that Kyle's probably going to want to use it to get Alyssa off, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there, right? We'll get to that point. We got to win first, and then we'll deal with that. So we see that Daniel and Kyle get picked. Brittany is talking to Taylor, and she says that, Monty and Miss BB tonight. Now I have to find YouTubers to catch me. Oh man, sorry to hear that. Well, yeah, that's definitely what we're here for, is to catch up and what you might miss and recap and talk about it. But Brittany mentions to Taylor, she says, for sure. Brittany says, Monty and Joseph were smart in bringing Terrence in because now they have a safety net. If they get put up, then that's an easy person for us to all vote out, is Terrence. We don't have to worry about voting out one of the 7 and having to split ourselves up. She says that every single person in their alliance has that safety net. They have that insurance policy, except for her and Michael. So she starts trying to figure out a way where they can do that. She's like, well, if we keep noms the same, then we can try and get Alyssa out and try and get Indy to go for us. Now, there was so much, and they'll talk about it again after the veto. And we'll touch. We'll wait to touch on it then. But there's something bugs me about this whole scenario, and we'll go over it in a minute. But she mentions, that's what they want to do. And Taylor says, listen, if these 2 people, they're my final 3. If they, if that's what they need me to do to feel safe, to feel comfortable, then I'm all for it, right? So that's kind of her goal right now is and it keeps her off the block. She doesn't want to go up if she doesn't have to. So we see that, Daniel talks more about he wants to win and that he's got to try and figure out how to, keep Kyle and keep Kyle from trying to use it on Alyssa because he wants to win it and keep the noms the same. So we see the veto comp start. And I'll be honest, when we were watching this, I literally turned to my wife during the very first part with Alyssa, and I'm like, what are we watching? What I don't understand what this is supposed to be, because it goes from her kind of breaking down the comp like we have with every comp in the DR to all of a sudden it turns into this, and I'm expecting it to just kind of be a quick little bit, and it doesn't stop, and it just keeps going and going. I'm like, what is this? And so I'm assuming that they're watching something, but there wasn't anything there that I could see that they would be watching in their little tent things. So I I turn to her and I'm like, what are we supposed to watch? She's like, I think it's some sort of video that they're watching and they have to relay it back. So that was a little bit kind of, that whole comp, it was interesting. And again, I'm loving these comps because as weird as it was, them having to watch something, relay it, and then the other people, the partners, have to have like a B or C question comp. That is a very, in my opinion, I like that a lot. I thought it was a very unique way of doing it, something that they haven't done before. So we start going through there. We see everyone watch their videos, and they're all trying to relay what they saw, and not a single one of them, except Kyle or except Daniel. Daniel actually was the best at relaying this info to everyone else, and Kyle starts trying to take all this info in, and I loved his strategy. I really did. He's picturing a painting, and he's like, okay, I got this piece over here, and you're saying that you're seeing this over here. Okay, I see this, and I would not have thought of that, but that is incredible that he was able to kind of manage that, because everyone else they're getting all this info just thrown at them, and they have no idea that, that any of this, what actually happened, and what they're saying. They're all like, are these people still tripping? Like, were they actually given shrooms? Because I have no idea what they're saying. And Daniel and Kyle definitely had the right the right idea to get that going. So we see that Daniel, we see Kyle getting some of the answers right. Daniel's getting really excited. He's like, yeah, like even one of them that he was like, oh, I didn't tell him that. Kyle still gets it. He's super excited. And then in the end, Kyle helps win the veto, and Daniel's super excited, right? So after we get back from that, we see Kyle saying he wants to take Alyssa off the block. And Daniel does not want to take the nominees off the block. We see that Kyle starts talking to Alyssa in the bathroom, and he tells her, yeah, no, for sure. I'm definitely going to use a veto on you. Very, very kind of prematurely. And we see Michael and all the others up in the HOH room, minus Kyle. And he's saying, he starts talking about, listen, if we can get Alyssa to go home, we can get Indy to stay, we'll have Indy on our team, and then that gives us that safety net, right? Okay, I don't know, and this is what I was saying earlier. This is what bugs me. Why do they think that just because Indy stays, she's automatically going to select their group, right? And they do kind of mention, like, hopefully she picks us, but you're basing this entire move for the main fact, your main motivation is to get Indy to pick you guys. But she may very well not. In fact, I would bet that she's probably more likely to pick Jasmine and Turner, because Jasmine is a friend of hers, right? So beyond that, I mean, she's got what? Nicole and Taylor. She's probably not going to go up with Taylor. And she's probably not going to go up with Daniel. She's probably going to go up with Jasmine. So I just, again, she very well could go with Michael and Brittany. But this whole move is centered around that. And again, if they take out Alyssa, they knock out one of the numbers for that side. I get it. But also, you're taking out, aside from maybe Terrence, you're taking out the most palatable vote over there. Because of any of those people, again, except for maybe Terrence, Alyssa's going to be the easiest person to persuade to vote your way than any of the other house guests, because she has Kyle. And if Kyle is really into whatever the leftovers are wanting to do that week, and he's able to persuade her, that's another vote for them. So I don't understand why they just assume that they're going to pull that off. It doesn't make any sense to me. So they're talking about having that scenario, and Monty agrees. He says that he thinks it's a good idea for everyone to be insulated. And now their biggest hurdle is going to be to get Kyle to not use the veto, because they know that Daniel, he doesn't want to risk putting Nicole up, so he's probably not going to use it. So they're not worried about that. So not really. So Monty goes to Kyle. He's like, hey, we need to talk. We've all been up kind of chatting. They bring Kyle in, and they say, look, basically, they explain everything again. It's like the third time we hear the story tonight, or the idea. And they say, we need to make sure that everyone's insulated, right? We need to have an extra person join Michael and Brittany's group. So if they go up, we can still vote that third person out, keep both of them safe. And Kyle knows, he's like, look, this is going to be a hard decision. Joseph says that he thinks they should keep everything the same because they can keep the alliance safe. And Kyle knows that this is what he needs to do. He's not stupid. You know, it might not have popped in his head, but as soon as they say it, it's like one of those things where, you know, you really want to go do something, right? And whether it's your spouse or your friend or anyone really, that's like, you know, we actually shouldn't because of this, right? You're super pumped, you're super excited, you want to go to that thing, and then you realize, oh, you're right, we have that, we can't. And you're constantly trying to come up with a way to avoid the no answer, right? You're trying to find a way to be like, no, you know what? We can work with that later. We can deal with that later. Let's just go do this now, right? And that's exactly the situation Kyle was in. Now, unlike most, he was able to find his way out of it, as we see later in the episode. But, you know, everyone's basically coming to him saying, you know what, that whole plan we've been planning, yeah, scratch that. You know, we talked about if Taylor wasn't comfortable, well, she said she's comfortable, but you know what, scratch it, because this is what the other thing that we need to do is. And again, I don't disagree with the thought of it. Yes, it's probably more beneficial to have someone join have someone join Michael and Brittany's group than it is to get Nicole out this week. But you still have the scenario of you don't know that that's what's going to happen. So while you are going to be knocking a number down, you're knocking the only number, like the number you're knocking down is the only one that you might have the chance to flip. And even then, like, even if she doesn't, you still are only like this you're risking Indy not going to their group, right? So it really kind of, I understand it, but they're putting so many eggs in that basket that this might turn out to not benefit you. I mean, a little bit, because you are still knocking those numbers down, but it still is going to, you're still going to have a lot of risks. And most often than not, in this scenario, you're probably not going to have what you think happened. So it's probably going to be a waste. So we see Monty, and they basically decide, okay, we're gonna keep noms the same, right? He's like, we just got to make sure at this point that Daniel's not going to do something crazy and use it. So they go to Daniel, and they're like, Monty goes to Daniel. He's like, listen, we need to talk a bit. So he pulls Daniel and Nicole up to the HOH room, and he talks to Daniel. He says, listen, you can't use the veto, right? If you use the veto, basically what he says is if you use that veto, the numbers are there to get Nicole out. She will leave. And Daniel and Nicole are both like, Nicole says she's shocked. Says she's shocked that that Monty has a better read on the house than her, and it's really getting on her nerves. And then she follows it up in the DR by saying that because she's a former cop, she can tell when people are BSing her, and she can see straight through Monty's BS, right? But as we know, that's not true, because while he was initially BSing her this week, now he's telling the truth. And again, the same thing happened with her and their other group and with Joseph. I've never seen a cop that is worse at spotting lies than Nicole, because she believes every lie that's told to her, and she does not believe anything that's actually true that's spoken to her. And it's baffling to me that this person that was a former cop for 10 years, for 10 years, it's been a while since he's been on the force, but still, for 10 years, you retain some of that to now nothing, right? She's got no read, she has no idea what's going on, and it's very evident. Why does my chair keep going down? I don't know why that keeps happening. Maybe I've just hit that weight limit finally. It's just going to slowly go down further and further. Hope not. That's annoying. Anyway, but yeah. So Daniel and Nicole are both just like, oh, okay. So you don't think Nicole can stay, right? Well, that's a lie because we've already fact checked that, and we know for certain that she will stay, and and Daniel basically says he thinks Monty's trying to protect Taylor, that they have a newfound friendship, and he's trying to protect his new friend, and he can see what's going on because obviously he doesn't have the votes to keep Taylor, so he's trying to use reverse psychology on me, try and convince me to not use the veto and not have to put up Taylor and Nicole, because who else is he possibly going to put up? And if he does that, then Nicole has got all the votes locked in to stay, right? It's so, I've never seen anything like that. I really haven't. He used reverse psychology on himself. They both did. They're both confident as crap that if they put up Nicole and Taylor, that if they pull down Alyssa and Indy, that Nicole and Taylor go up, Nicole's going to be safe. Okay, let's assume for a second that you think that's true, right? You just came off the heels of the first blind side of the season, the first vote that you were on the opposite side of. It was almost unanimous, and you have no idea what's going on. We keep hearing that over and over and over. I don't trust anyone. I don't trust anyone. You don't trust anyone, then why are you letting your best friend in the house go on the block? And Nicole, why are you letting your best friend in the house allow you to go up? It does not make any sense. Any sense at all. Because if you don't trust anyone besides your one closest ally, why would you have any idea, any inclination to risk their safety and think that it's all going to pan out? That yes, you have the numbers. You've been saying for the last several days that you don't trust anyone besides her. That's all you trust. It's baffling to me because I genuinely believe that, obviously, and they haven't really said it on the show yet, but they have kind of figured out who all is in the Leftovers Alliance. They don't know the name, but they know everyone besides Kyle. They think Kyle is with them. That's why they were so willing to do this. Was something that got left out. That's why they thought Kyle was, oh yeah, he wants to save Alyssa, and he's with us. So, we have him as a vote for Nicole. But besides that, I really think that they are so delusional that they know what's going on, but they just can't face the facts, right? So they're like, we're going to go out swinging. I think subconsciously they're both on the same level. They're just like, well, there's nothing we can do at this point. So we're just going to have to go as crazy as we can and just hope that this backwards scenario is going to work. Because if they're trying to think logically, there is nothing logical about this. There isn't. It's absolute insanity. And I'm baffled by it. These were two of the people that going in for the first few days after the cast assessment and watching the premiere episode that I was most excited about. I was most excited about them over anyone else in the house. And then it was Kyle, Michael, and Amira. And those were basically the five, right? Amira was actually fairly good, and I actually, from a game perspective, thought she was doing fairly well. And she, she was just overconfident, which is what took her out. But even then, like, everything with, like, the Taylor stuff, and it's just so, like, I just can't figure out how they got to this point. And it's just baffling to me. And again, I've heard people mention how, you don't want a whole bunch of non-recruits because then the game's not going to be very interesting. I'm starting to wonder, as much as I've been pitching this, like this only this only cast fans on the show, or primarily fans, and not have very many recruits. I don't know, because almost every single super fan we get is a dud anymore, and it's really frustrating. Michael is one of the best super fans we've had in a long time, and I'm really happy watching the way he's going about the game. It's a little bit slower of a pace, but I think he kind of knew that's the box he was going to be put in. And I'm very impressed, very much loving watching his gameplay, and I'm having a great time with it. The majority of people in in the 7, I'm pretty happy with watching. For what we're getting this season, it's been a little bit of a slower season, a little bit of a harder one to get into, but now we're here, and it's starting to pan out. But it's it just the idiocracy of so many people in this house this year is depressingly annoying. But again, just like we talked about, it's that human zoo factor, and that's where we end up. So that's, I guess I can't complain too much if I'm chanting that so much. So yeah, he Daniel basically tells Kyle, look, we're gonna have to use the veto and pull those girls down and get Taylor out and get Taylor backdoored, because we got to make sure we have those numbers to get her out with Alyssa and Indy. And Kyle was like, okay, like this isn't what the group wants, but I literally, and you're right. I mean, no matter how it's spun, Daniel wanted to use the veto. There was no other way around it because of how restricted they are and the stupid twist. Veto's used. So Kyle was just teed up the perfect excuse to get what he wanted and not get grounded from his parents, basically. And it's good for him that he was able to pull that off. For his game, I do think it was the best decision. I think it put him in the best spot. But just the idiocracy of Daniel and Nicole. And then Nicole's just like, oh man, like, this is, she laughs about it, and she thinks it's hilarious because Monty tried to switch things up on her and trick her, and it didn't work. And you won't be laughing very much tomorrow, unfortunately. So yeah, tomorrow's episode, I'm hoping that we have more than just the eviction to talk about, because there was some more stuff that went on, but it's a little bit ahead, so I don't want to talk too much about it. And to be honest, just completely frank, since the veto ceremony happened Monday, I really haven't been watching a lot of the last couple days, because there really hasn't been a ton that's gone on. There's some non-game stuff that will definitely turn into game stuff, if that makes sense, but we'll go over a bunch of that tomorrow, whenever, because Thursday, it's kind of like the weekly recap also. So yeah, that's all we have for the episode. Let's see. We got a little bit more time here. We've been going for about 45 minutes. So if you guys got any more questions, put them in the chat and we'll read them off. I'm going to catch back up a little bit. Okay. So talked about Mona, and then she said, if a few bad actors get slammed by Twitter hate and no endorsements, it will get cured up, I bet. Yeah, it's, I don't know if you're talking, like, if you're mean like the house guests when you say that. I don't know. It's been happening for years, especially since 15, where you would think that would give enough of an example. Honestly, part of me feels like maybe it's not their job, but with the amount of backlash they're getting, and like I've said a couple weeks ago, how scared I am, frankly, for the future of the show if they don't address some of the issues that they've had. I'm starting to think that it might be the producers need to start doing a better job of prepping these house guests when they go in, right? And also prepping them when they come out, because I'm not the first one that's mentioned this since Paloma's left, but or even Pooch for that matter. Well, even really Amira, but since the three of them left, I'm not the only one that's mentioned that. Every time someone comes out and they get accused of, well, you did this, or you said that insensitive thing, or you were rude about this thing, their first response is, well, you don't see everything on the feeds, and that's just not true. I am 100% quoting Taryn from RHAP when I say this, but he said it perfectly earlier this week. He said, "Stop saying the feeds don't show everything. We know more than you." And this is probably the only time where you can say that, and it's not, or one of the only times where you can say that it's accurate, and it's not in an offensive way. I genuinely know more of what happened in that house than you do, because yes, I may not have seen every single little tiny bit, but I saw the grand majority of what you did, and I also saw the grand majority of what everyone else did and didn't do. So when you come out here accusing everyone of all this stuff and say that, well, you didn't see what they did to me, the feeds don't show everything. Yeah, they do. So like the things that you're talking about, you're for one, some of it's just completely fabricated, and the only truth in it is completely twisted to make it look like your point of view. So I don't, that's a whole nother side of it. I think ultimately, no matter what happens when you get this many people in for this long of a time, people's real colors are going to show. And I really don't, could they do more? Yeah, I think they could do more to try and educate house guests before they go in. But I really just, it's kind of at a point where I don't know that would do a lot of good, because again, you're putting 16 people in a house for 3 months, locking the door, and they only talk to each other, and they don't have any entertainment. They don't have anything to distract their minds. So no matter how much you try and help them to get in the correct mindset, the majority of them are just going to default to whatever their true feelings are. And I'm sure a lot of them don't act that way in real life. They say, well, that's not the person I am in real life. Yeah, because you are only pretending to be someone different for 8 hours. You're only pretending to hide those negative aspects about yourself for 8 to 10 hours a day, not 24/7, 7 days a week. And so, and not to say that they are pretending to be someone different. I think I said that, and that's not what I mean. But everyone, does not matter who you are. Everyone has their own negative traits, their own biases based on how they were raised and their environment. And that's just a fact of life. And that in and of itself, the fact that we have those, I don't necessarily think are wrong, but them in and of themselves may not be good, and definitely needs to be addressed and needs to be worked on. So the fact that we all have it, but are you actually adapting and working to fix that? And that's kind of, that's for me is the big separator in all of that. Okay. You said you missed BB. Yep. Like I said, we're mostly here to recap about it and give perspective, but if this is your way to catch back up, on what you might have missed, then hey, I'm happy that you came on here, CA, and tuned in and was able to join the conversation. It's always fun to have more people, and you're very welcome for the info. We definitely have a lot of that here. If there's one thing we're not short of on this channel, it's info. Okay. Mona says, hey, AFT Media, or ATF Media. Hey, AFT Media. Now I'm curious as to what that secret y'all were talking about is. That's a funny one. I wonder what that is. Okay. Let's see. Mona says, I like competition where they can all have a chance to win, not only athletes. Yes. And for me, I'm fine with physical competitions. I'm perfectly fine with it, because there's a certain niche that would fit into that. Kyle, Monty, Joseph. Those are the first two that pop in my head when you think about like a physical threat If I'm missing anyone, let me know. I probably am. But I'm fine with those types of competitions. I'm also fine with, but not fine. If you have those, you have to have competitions that play to everyone's strengths. So if you're going to have physical, and that's the past several seasons, that's pretty much all it's been is physical, 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 which gives the physical players a much higher advantage. You also have to have strategic competitions where players that are not as physically inclined, but a little bit more mentally inclined when it comes to mental skills are going to have an easier time. Same with people that are good with endurance. What most people don't realize is the best person for an endurance is not someone that's strong that can hold their body weight up. It's the person that's not very muscular and doesn't have a lot of weight on them. People like Taylor, they're going to do really good in this competition. People like Michael, they're going to do really good in an endurance wall type style competition compared to most of the house guests, because most of them are not built the same way. They have a select group of a few different house guests that are all kind of built similar, and they need to have comps that are going to play towards those different types of strengths, right? If you're not going to have that, then I think that every competition, if you're not going to have them all, like have different ones for different strengths and have them all equaled out, if you're not going to have that, then the next best thing is have all of them a crapshoot. And that's basically what we're getting. I mean, with a few exceptions, the majority of these competitions, in my opinion, have been very crapshooty, meaning anyone can win. It comes down to more just chance than it does anything else. So I'm enjoying the competition. I don't have a problem with physical competitions at all, as long as it's kind of an even divide between those mental and endurance. As long as it's a good, and maybe I'm missing another category in there that I just haven't thought of. But as long as they're kind of spread out and equal that way, then I'm okay with it. Okay. The hair is awful. I hope you're not talking about my hair, Mona. I worked really hard to make it look good. I'm just kidding. I tried to brush through it a little bit, and it didn't look very good. Indy is nasty about Britt, called her ugly. Yeah, I didn't personally catch that, but it's not that specific one, but I have caught several similar comments. Indy has been on that train of saying some very negative things about some of the other house guests. So yeah, again, that's just another point in the bucket of you can't guarantee that she's going to go with Michael and Brittany. ATF Media says, here's the thing about Indy. She's been flirting with me through the private cameras. She's been all over me like a lampshade. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. I know that I've heard some other recappers and some other reviewers that would be happy about that. Personally, I don't think I would be, but I'm sorry. So I can feel your pain. I'm sorry that you're going through that, ATF. Mona, you believe that? I believe it too. Happy One 2017 says, so excited for tomorrow. I am too. And I guess minor spoiler warning from feeds, like very, very minor. But I'll put that up there now. So if you don't want anything spoilery possible at all for tomorrow, then mute it for a minute. But Nicole is not oblivious to the fact that she is very much a possibility of going home. And I think she has come to that realization at this point, but she just doesn't want to admit it, and she keeps clawing and fighting. So I don't know how big of a blindside it'll be tomorrow. But I'm hoping that they're lying to themselves enough that it's a pretty big one. Because as terrible as it is, I really enjoy watching people think they're safe just completely get obliterated. It's very fun for me. Anyway, real quick, I just want to let everyone mention everyone again. We're getting somewhat towards the end of the stream, so anyone that's coming in and out, if you just joined, you got any questions, make sure to leave them in the live chat, and we'll get to those before we bounce out. Anyway, back to the happy one. You said, I can't wait to see Daniel, Indy, and Jasmine when they hear the news that Nicole's evicted. Yeah, again, I should have read that one before I commented on the first one. But again, yeah, I don't know if it'll be that big of a deal. I still think we could see a little bit of shock from Indy and Jasmine if it doesn't get back to them in time, because I think that I don't know that Nicole is really, like, I know she's probably mentioned it a little bit that she's kind of scared, but I think she's trying to give off this this very confident viewpoint of what she's hoping is going to happen, and kind of passing that off as, what she's sure of is going to happen. ATF says, I heard Jasmine is having her leg amputated live on tomorrow's episode. Can anyone confirm? I can't confirm it. I will vote. Here's the thing. It would take up too much of the live eviction for me, anyway. Take up too much time, and we wouldn't get to see everything else. But you know what? Maybe after Julie has her post-eviction chat with Nicole on TikTok, that they can put the amputation on TikTok, since everyone loves to post on TikTok for TV shows. That's another thing. I get on TikTok occasionally, whenever I'm bored, and I think it's fine. It has a fine space. I think it's fine for them to use TikTok and back when they were using Snapchat to for the house guests to kind of hang out with, kind of share their do their daily stories or whatever. I'm fine with that, but I don't like how Big Brother, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that all of the post-eviction interviews are strictly TikTok. Now, if I'm wrong about that, please let me know, because I haven't watched any of the post-episode interviews that Julie's been doing this season. So I haven't caught them. If I'm wrong about that, let me know for sure. But I'm under the impression that all of them are on TikTok, because I know there's another show that was doing that too. I think that's ridiculous. I don't want to have to, my only way to view it is in that terrible quality on my phone. I want to feel like I'm watching an extension of the episode, not some TikTok star living in their parents' spare bedroom, film this thing. Like, I want it to feel like an actual production quality, and that's not how that feels. Yes or no with anesthetic. Mona says, hit the like button. Yeah, guys. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to hit the like button. It does help us out for sure. Thank you, Mona, for reminding everyone of that. Happy One says, I think Taylor's going to have a good future after this. I hope so. I kind of had a thought watching the episode tonight that, she's really been pitching to not have to go up a third time. I'm kind of worried that she might be in a position where if she goes all this stretch, right, where she was nominated several times initially, kept avoiding getting evicted, and then turns around and goes a long stretch not being on, the moment she touches the block again, she's probably going to get voted out. I had that thought in my head. I'm like, oh man, I hope not, but I feel like that's very much possible. All right. Any reality TV show with her on it, I'll definitely watch. Yeah. Again, I would say this. I probably will not be as big. It's definitely going down. I've definitely hit that weight limit. It's slowly sinking down. You guys saw it. I haven't touched it. Slowly sinking, and it's really annoying. But yeah, with Taylor, if I'm being honest, it's not. I probably wouldn't be as invested in her as a house guest if it wasn't for everything that went on. Her going through everything that happened to her at that point, I don't really care about much anything else, whether she's a great game player or someone that is a fun personality to watch. I don't really care. For me, I just feel like, ever since this started happening, all I care about is watching her get justification, get her avenged, right? and take all the people that were treating her so poorly and have them go through the same thing. Obviously, they're not going to go through the same thing, but at least get them in a position where they're not. They get to feel some sort of confusion and 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 almost a type of pain, and sadness that they can experience what she went through, because it was terrible. You see someone being treated that way, and you can't help but not root for him. You want to root for him. So, I personally, I wouldn't. I don't know that I would say for me that I would definitely watch everything she's on. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd definitely at least check it out, but I don't know that I would. For me personally, that I'm that interested in her as a character per se, without all that. But because of everything that went on, and that is unfair to her. It's unfair that there are going to be some people like myself. There are some people, like you, Happy One, that absolutely love her, and aside from all this that went on, that really appeal to her personality and all that, and there's going to be a lot of you guys out there, probably, I bet the overwhelming majority, but there's going to be some people that kind of probably share my opinion a little bit, and that's unfortunate that the people that do share that opinion are probably only doing that because of everything she went through, and that's unfortunate for her. People aren't being allowed to really base their opinions off of her as an actual individual. It's almost like she was cast as a victim, which is really unfortunate for her. She shouldn't have to go through that. She shouldn't have to go through any of the stuff that she's went through. But now that now she kind of has to be portrayed as almost like the victim. I mean, she has been a victim. She definitely has. It's just really, the whole thing is just so unfortunate. I feel so bad for her that she's gone through everything she has. It's awful. All right. Mona, some people are saying they're super fans, but they do not meet the criteria for super fan by far. And Happy One follows that up with, what makes a super fan? Everyone probably has their own opinion on it, and they can't all be right. Okay, so here's what I will say. I will slightly disagree with what you say that they can't all be right. I think they can. I think that there isn't, or you can't definitively define a super fan, in my opinion. A little trade secret, because I'd like to get your opinion on this. So people that see Dylan, I'm going to throw him under the bus a little bit. Dylan is a friend of mine who's been popping and just kind of hanging out and trying to support the stream. He's not a huge Big Brother fan, so sometimes if he says something, that's because of that. But he is a huge Survivor fan. So I'm just curious, Dylan, when I say this, think of it in terms of Survivor and get your opinion too. When people say they're a super fan, everyone has different definitions of that, right? When me and you think of a super fan from like Survivor, we're thinking of like Cochran, right? But some people go in that just watch the show casually, and sometimes they don't even get every episode. Sometimes they go in and they only watch the beginning, and they kind of go in and out in the middle, and then they watch the finale. Everyone's going to have their own definition of a super fan. That doesn't necessarily mean they're right and they're wrong. Now, when I think of a super fan, when I define it, and I could be a little bit wrong on this. It is very possible, but I feel like the first time we really heard the term super fan really used was, I think Ian was really the first super fan, at least in a way that the general understanding of one is. I think that a lot of people have, again, kind of used that as, oh, I'm a fan, right? And no one wants to look like a recruit. So we get the cast release, we get all these people in, and everyone wants to say, oh yeah, I'm a fan. I've been watching since last season. Well, yeah, because you were getting casted on the show. You knew that you were being looked at, so you went back and watched the past season. People that have just watched, a little bit, and some maybe watched when they were younger and then didn't pay attention, then picked up again, and they're like, oh yeah, I watched it with the family, but you're just kind of casually watching, you don't care. So when I think of superfan, I personally think of it as someone like Ian, or whether you like it or not, has a Survivor Day. Yeah, that's true. I agree there. Basically, what Dylan's saying is that he actually, for 3 or 4 years, organized a Survivor Day. So we played Survivor, we were split into two tribes, and he got to be Jeff Probst, and we voted everyone out, and then we had a winner, and we played competitions that he built hand scratched. He did a ton of work on it. It was amazing. I played 3 times, and when someone asked me last week if I would play Big Brother, I am scared a little bit because I was targeted at the beginning of every single Survivor Day I did. So that's one other reason why I may not want to. But yeah, no, when I think of Superfan, I think of Ian, I think of Steve, I think of Daniel. As much as people don't like it, I think of Daniel, I think of Michael. I think of Derek. Derek hadn't been watching super long when he played, but he studied the game. He didn't just sit casually and watch it every once in a while. He watched feeds. If you are someone that watches feeds and you call yourself a super fan, I won't be offended. For me, if you don't even watch feeds, I don't think, the way I define it, you can call yourself a super fan. But again, everyone's going to define that differently. So I don't know. I do kind of agree and I do kind of disagree about they can't all be right. I feel like they can, but I feel like there kind of is a general understanding, and it does kind of feel like a gray area a little bit. So yeah, that's how I and then Mona kind of follows it up. I kind of was peeking at your comment earlier. I kept reading Superman. I think you mean superfan. Mona says, I think a superfan is a feed watcher and a game strategist and not just an episode watcher. So yeah, I also, again, I agree with that. For me, and if we did have a standard, I feel like that is probably, if we could at least agree on some type of standard for it, the line is, do you watch any feeds? If you don't watch any feeds, you can't, you can't consider yourself a super fan because you're not getting the accurate portrayal of what's going on. You're not getting all of the information. You're getting how the show wants to edit it. But if you watch the feeds, you have, for the most part, all of the information. Now, you might miss certain details on certain conversations here and there, but the majority, like 80 to 85% of those conversations, you're getting on the feeds. And even when you don't hear those conversations, 95% of the time are repeated by the people that were in them or people that overheard them. And that part is shown on the feeds. So you're getting the full context of what's going on. You're figuring out why people are actually making the decisions they're making, not just however the episode and however production wants to edit it, which again, they have to have a coherent story. I get that. And sometimes the house guest, I don't blame him in certain aspects, because sometimes it's like, how did you get from point A to point B? Just like tonight. How does Daniel get from point A to point B, use Veto, pull them off, get Nicole up, and now Nicole's going home, and you have no idea? So I do understand, but that being said, they're kind of tasked sometimes with trying to piece together a narrative, and even if the outcome is what was planned, you still lose all of the details. And so yeah, for me, I would define a casual fan as someone that just watches the episodes. A super fan is a feed watcher. And you can even go more in depth than just a feed watcher, but I would leave it at there. So if we were to define it, and again, I don't even know that we would define it here, but if we were to define it, that's kind of how I would split that down the middle, personally. Everyone, yeah. Okay. ATF. I heard the Flash has been entering the house, but runs too fast for anyone to see him. probably true. I don't think you're wrong, because if he is in the house, I don't think anyone can see him. Taylor may have played totally different if it had been a level playing field. Yeah. And again, we can rehash it over and over, but I completely agree. I mean, you put you put a group of kids in a room, those kids are going to be more likely to navigate to people that are similar to them, that look like the people that they're used to being around. That's just how it is. That's human nature, right? Especially for kids. Now, we see in the house that kind of tends to be how the adults do too. And so I do think, and I'll be honest too, I think Taylor was also at a disadvantage that some of the people that did look like her that were in the house were a completely different mindset than what you would expect them to be. None of them were really, and look, I'm totally fine because I get why all the people of color in the house, why they would be a little bit hesitant to all come together because they don't want to look like the cookout. But and I get that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think that they should have to feel like they have to navigate towards someone just because they look like them. I think we're having diversity. We're asking for diversity in the house for a reason. Let's get everyone to let's see everyone from different backgrounds interact. Let's not just continue to do, and go with what and stick with that. But I also feel like in certain situations that should at least maybe Monty and a couple other people should have spoken up. That's all I'll say. All right, we've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes. We're going to start wrapping this up here. Okay, Mona says, Taylor may have played totally different. Yeah, we already read that. And then, yeah, happy one. It was a lot of fun. He, like I said, Dylan, he put up a ton of work and effort into it, and it was absolutely impressive. It really was. As someone that is a huge Survivor fan, getting to experience that genuinely was the closest thing that I'll ever get to any of those shows. Unless Sequester comes back and I do that. I've thought about signing up for that. If Aubrey does bring it back and starts doing it, you might see me try and apply on that a couple times at least, or in a couple years at least if they do that. ATF, I heard Daniel has third-degree burns from trying to light his farts on fire. Can anyone confirm? I cannot confirm if he is doing that. Part of me kind of hopes that he does, because I've never been like a crude humor type of guy, and watching people do that has always annoyed me. So yeah, I'd like to see people learn from their mistakes, and obviously he hasn't learned from any of his other mistakes he's made in the house this season, so maybe he can at least learn from that. I don't know, maybe that's the parent in me, who knows. Okay. And then Happy One says, that makes me happy. I don't know exactly what we were talking about when you said that, but I'm glad it made you happy. Glad you were happy. All right, guys. Well, we are going to go ahead and wrap this up. As always, make sure to follow me at DAC Chats. That's where we go send all of our live notifications whenever we go live. Any channel updates that come out, any potential or speed bumps or issues that may come up with future streams. That's where we talk about it until we hit that 500 sub mark, so we can access the community tab. Which, by the way, we finally hit 65 today. But when we ended the stream on Sunday, we ended it with 3 extra subs, which is amazing. For some reason, I'm not getting the sub updates while we're going. It's supposed to work, and it's not. So I don't know if I can fix that. But thank you guys so much for getting to that point. I really do think that we can hit 100 here in the next few weeks. and just based on the rate we've been going, who knows? It may drop off, but I really think we could do that. And if we can get 100 in the next few weeks, then we might hit that 500 mark by the end of the season. So let's see if we can make that our goal to hit 500 by the end of the season. I think that'd be really cool. Because by the time Big Brother ends, Survivor will be starting up, and we're going to be talking all about Survivor. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, guys, like I said, make sure to follow me on Twitter until we get to that point. If you haven't already subscribed and you're enjoying the content and the streams we're putting out, having the interactive live chat, I have so much fun doing this with you guys. So, if you're coming along, I'm seeing at least one or two new viewers in the chat each episode so far. So that's really awesome to see that. Even if it's someone that you've already been around and you're commenting for the first time, feel free, put your thoughts out there. If you're here, we want you to interact. We want to hear from you, and we want to see what you have to say. So if you've just been here lurking, go ahead. Just even say hi and let us know you're here. So yeah, and because we'll be going live about what I've currently been doing is 30 minutes after each episode. So it gives me time to help get family set up, get you guys kind of rejuvenated, go to the bathroom, everything before in between episode and the recap. But so about 30 minutes after each episode is when we plan on going live. So you don't have to necessarily worry about my live notifications. If you guys, if you like the video and you like the stream, make sure to hit that like button. It does help out a lot, more than you'd realize. It really does. Yeah, guys, it's been a great night. We're going to have a lot of fun tomorrow. I love doing the Thursday night streams, because like I said earlier, we get to also kind of recap the whole week as a whole, and just get everyone's viewpoints, and then get to speculate as to what could happen next. So I'm super excited. But yeah, we're going to end it there. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys tonight. Don't forget, it's from 8 to 9, so 9:30 tomorrow night. Be back right here. So guys, we'll see you then. Have a good night.